As you may have noticed, I've been really enjoying the Matriarch since I bought one about 6 months ago. Now in my videos so far with the Matriarch, I've been focused on trying to show just how powerful and inspiring it can be by itself. You don't need anything else to go with it. But I actually bought this synth to plop it down right here in front of my Eurorack system. And I don't want to spoil the video, but turns out I was kind of a genius. This is going to be part one of a series where I show you different techniques that I'm using of incorporating the Eurorack with the Matriarch. And this one's going to focus on one of the things that I first envisioned when I was still in the hovering over the buy button phase with this synthesizer. And that's going to be using an external Eurorack sequencer, in this case the Eloquencer, to sequence each of these oscillators individually. With 4 oscillators on the Matriarch, things can get really complicated really quickly. So for the purposes of this video, I'm going to be using it through the Matriarch's VCA. I'm not going to be triggering the VCA with a gate externally. So I'm going to be playing things, and the sequencer, the Eloquencer, is going to be modulating each of the oscillators independently. But because it's all quantized, if I stick to octaves and fifths, it's going to create some things that work really well as I play around through different chords. Obviously, you could make it far more complex where you could just hold down one note and the Eloquencer does all the work. Or you could set it into drone mode, or you could have the Eloquencer trigger the VCA. But we're going to keep it relatively simple for this video. Now, before I bought the Matriarch, I had originally envisioned using it with the Hermod, which I used to be the main brain of my modular. But I replaced that with the Eloquencer because it's a bit more hands-on. I do miss the Hermod, I've got to say. It's just so great to go off the grid with the Hermod. And all of the MIDI effects, they call them, like the arpeggiator and all of the random generators in there, that would be really powerful with this as well. But for today, the Eloquencer is going to serve the purpose quite well, I think you'll see. So real quick, it's a simple patch. I am in 4-voice paraphonic mode, and I have, as I mentioned, 3 of the oscillators here on the Matriarch being sequenced with CV through the Eloquencer, or by the Eloquencer. As I also mentioned, I'm sticking pretty much to just octaves and fifths here. Maybe throw in a second every once in a while just to get that kind of semi-random feel. If I play this in monophonic mode, so you can hear that things are happening as I just hold down this note. That's all the Eloquencer sequencing these oscillators. I've got a couple external LFOs. I could use the LFOs here on the Matriarch, but why not? I've got external stuff, so I'm going to use it to do some pulse width modulation because I am using all pulse waves, except I've got one triangle here on oscillator 4. Because I like having kind of a bit crushy effect, and obviously we don't have any digital effects on the Matriarch, but we can kind of emulate that by setting the LFO to a audio rate. And as we bring that in, it's modulating the cutoff amount in audio rate and also the pulse width a bit in audio rates. So sounds really nice through that wonderful delay that we have over here. I also have some aftertouch going into an attenuator so that I can just slightly change the delay time based on the aftertouch. Very subtle. If you get too crazy with that, it goes crazy. Okay, so I'm going to go back to 4-voice paraphonic mode because I really want to play chords with this. And that in and of itself is beautiful. Really lovely. But it's kind of rigid right now, and that's because the clock of the Eloquencer is set to just 1 BPM, I think it's 120, and it's just running through. You can see it. Now you may notice that the Eloquencer is doing some stuff, and that's because I have each of these set to a different length so that it never does the same thing twice, right? So that's one way you can get some variation in a patch like this, if your external sequencer can have independent track length, do that. It's a quick and easy way to get some variation. I'm going to take it one step further, and I'm going to take a random burst from my random pico module over here, and I'm going to control the clock of the Eloquencer externally with that. Nothing's going to happen until I go into the settings of the Eloquencer and change the tempo to external. Now you're going to see something happening that's going to seem a little weird. And that's because I just have a random pulse coming out of the Pico Random module, the rate of which is being controlled by this quad LFO right here. I'm just using magneto to provide a steady clock to that quad LFO so that it's independent. Normally this is my main clock for the whole system, but obviously if the Eloquencer's clock is being modulated by something else, it's not going to provide a steady clock like I need for these LFOs. So that's the method to that madness. And that's really all that's happening in this patch. I'm going directly out to a mixer here and just using the built-in delay, which is one of my favorite delays ever in the Matriarch. So that's it for this patch. So now if I play in monophonic mode, you'll hear that all of those pitch modulations are happening at different times. I don't know why I played that. Back to what I envisioned for this patch, 4-voice paraphonic mode, and let's play some chords and see what happens. Because you might not have a Matriarch of your very own and you want to have sounds like this at your disposal, I have turned this patch into a multi-sample pack. So you can find that, it's going to be the first link in the description. And I did several layers because you can't really replicate the random aspects of this paraphonic mode round robining through. But I multi-layered it so that you can set up some round robins in Contact or whatever sampler you choose to use. If you like this video and you want to see more with the Matriarch and the Eurorack system, like the video. That would be really helpful to the YouTube algorithm. If you do want to make sure you don't miss the next video in this series, you can subscribe and ring the bell and all the other YouTube things that you're supposed to do. And if you like seeing weekly content about music production and synthesizers and sound design and tape loops and deadpan cutaways for comedic effect, hit that subscribe button. I already said that, didn't I? And this box over here somewhere is a generative patch that I made using only the Matriarch, so click on over there if you want to see that. And as always, I don't have a catchphrase to end these videos.